It's finished 2-0 to Celtic against Hamilton Academical. Leigh Griffiths getting the opening goal and Odsonne Edouard doubling the lead in the second half. Celtic starting lineup was a diamond again. He's gone for Scott Bain in goals, Christopher Eouard, Near Beaton, Shane Duffy, Greg Taylor in the defence, Sorrow as the only centre defensive midfielder, and McGregor, El Yunusi playing on each side, with Turnbull playing as the number 10. Griffiths, Edouard up front together. Finally, we see two strikers playing up front together. It's been a while since we actually had a chance to see two main strikers who actually play in that position playing in their actual position, and also good to see Odsonne Edouard getting a start again after recovering from COVID. So essentially, looking at the game, we'll start with the starting lineup. So we had Scott Bain starting in goals. Kind of came out of the blue. It's almost a toss of the coin at this stage who's going to be playing in nets for Celtic these days. I didn't think Barkas did much wrong. Obviously, he didn't do all that well in the last couple of games as well. But I'm not sure what you're winning or gaining from starting Scott Bain in these games when you know that Barkas is low on confidence, and you know you're probably going to keep a clean sheet if you play to any real high standard and play to the standard Celtic played tonight, which I thought was actually quite good. So you're throwing Barkas in for the 5 games that you lose or you don't win, and then you put Scott Bain in for the game that's the obvious one that you're going to get a nice little confidence boost with, Hamilton being bottom of the table. So that decision made no sense to me. Christopher Eouard again playing right back. He might need to get used to that position. I'll return to that later on. And then Near Beaton, Shane Duffy, Greg Taylor probably expected to play across the defence. Then Sorrow, I thought, was excellent again in midfield by himself. And what's the beauty of this diamond system, and I think we saw it tonight and across the other games as well, is that the likes of McGregor, who was being held up by defensive duties, is free to go forward and actually improve himself. Jesus Christ, Alexa is actually talking to me here. So McGregor can get forward, can get into the box. He almost had a couple of goals tonight, almost set up a couple of goals as well. He's an excellent midfielder when he's going box to box, but if he's just harnessed for the defensive only duties, that's where he falls down. He's weakest in defensive duties, and that's what he's been doing all year. That's what he's been forced into with the 4-2-3-1 or 3-5-2 formation. So I think the diamond with him on the left hand side of that works excellently, and I'm glad that we didn't see Ryan Christie starting again, because he's been in terrible form. Up front, Leigh Griffiths, exactly the type of game that he thrives in against the smaller sides who aren't going to get tight to him, and he always gets a goal or gets opportunities, and he can take them. His goal is an absolutely beautiful goal from outside the box, but if you're taking out those pot shots against bigger sides who have players closer to you, tighter defences, then that's when it becomes a problem. But against teams like Hamilton, when you have space to open up and score goals like that, then why not go for it? And then Odsonne Edouard, again, like I said, absolutely brilliant to see him back in the starting lineup. But one thing I did want to touch on, maybe it's a lack of sharpness, but what do you think of Odsonne Edouard's form this year? Because he obviously has 13 goals in the league, got one again tonight, but I thought he was pretty average if you're looking at him compared to Odsonne Edouard from a couple of years ago. He was a little bit lacking sharpness in terms of match fitness, missed a good opportunity in the first half. He took his goal well, in fairness to him, but apart from that, I thought he was actually quite poor tonight. Just in the comments, Lisbon67 didn't watch the game, but he's seen the highlights. Should let Lennon go on a win and let's get started for the next season. Yeah, there's a good point in that. In fairness, there's a good argument to be made that Neil Lennon should be let go now on a win while things are high. But ultimately, I think things have gotten so bad over the last couple of weeks and last couple of months that I don't know if he's salvaging his reputation by leaving now, or if they're going to actually let him go, because who knows. The review, actually, I didn't actually get to touch on this in any of my videos during the week, so the review is supposed to be happening, or supposed to be coming out at the end of this week. So if the review was actually into his performance, and then they have any real idea in their head that they're going to let Neil Lennon go, they need to have a backup. There's talk that's going to be John Kennedy coming in, and I thought John Kennedy would be the man that would be filling in till the end of the season. I know a lot of people want a manager to come in now and start building for the start of the season. That is the preference, but whether or not the Celtic board actually have the foresight to make that decision, have someone in there and actually perform to the level that you need them, and perform under the pressure and the budgetary systems that Celtic have in place, because that's a real issue for them at the minute. So Eddie Tiller is saying that in terms of goalkeepers, we have a clear pecking order. I think that's not necessarily true. I think Neil Lennon just throws in whoever he thinks is going to play a good game at this point in time. I mean, we've tried Connor Hazard a couple of games. He flaps at things coming in, but he's a young keeper. He needs to learn how to actually catch a ball, and he needs to learn how to build himself up in these tight situations against teams like Livingston, who are going to pump balls in on top of him. Scott Bain, his strengths, his weaknesses are clear. But again, it's almost like Barkas. We did a huddle breakdown on these goalkeepers. The video is available to watch if you actually want to see the breakdown and how the goalkeepers are performing across the season. And really, Barkas is not playing that badly. Again, he's not playing well, and he's not playing better than you'd expect him to, but he's playing exactly how you would expect him to in the system that Celtic were playing in the games that they were playing. So what you have to remember, a lot of people give Barkas and get onto his case and say that he is the problem and he doesn't save many shots, and that's true. He can be frustrating at times, but if you look at when Barkas has been playing, he's been playing in the games where Celtic have been playing Scott Brown as a centre defensive midfielder, with Frimpong playing as a right wing back, Laxall playing as a left wing back, and the defensive system has been all over the place. So teams were getting through easy, and they were getting easy shots on goal. So you're not expecting him to save many of those shots. So that's why I think maybe judge Barkas when all of this is over and he has a proper system in place. So Jeremy Frimpong's departure, I didn't get to touch on this during the week either. I don't know what you think. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Jeremy Frimpong leaving the club this early into the season, or this early into his Celtic career. He has another 2 years left in his contract. He's officially gone to Bayer Leverkusen. I think the fee was 10-12 million that it's rumoured to be. So there's two ways of looking at this. You can look at it as a lack of ambition from Celtic, keeping hold of their younger, better, talented players, or you can look at it in a sense that that's actually brilliant business from Celtic when you come down to the business sense of things, because they brought Jeremy Frimpong in for a couple of 100,000. They've now sold him for 10-12 million. So on the face of it, that's good value. I think the issue that most people will have with this is that he will not be replaced quick enough or to a high enough standard, and that is one of the key issues. It was an issue when Kieran Tierney left the club. They didn't have anybody to come in that was to his standard. Then when Paul Ngole left or was thrown out of the club, they didn't have anybody to replace him in. So they had Greg Taylor playing there for a lot of the season. When defenders like Simunovic were leaving at centre back, Celtic didn't have a proper option there straight away, or even like 3 to 4 months later, they still were searching for that player who's going to come in and replace these players. So I think that's my biggest issue with Jeremy Frimpong leaving the club, because ultimately what Celtic fans need to realise is that Celtic are always going to be feeder clubs from now on. That is the business model. They will be developing this younger talent, bringing in players for less money and selling them for more money. So that's the business model. That's how Celtic are operating. That's how they're going to operate. But to do that successfully, you need to be successfully bringing in good players, reliable players. They did this relatively successfully when Moussa Dembele, because I think they thought Moussa Dembele was going to develop as quickly as he did, and they had Odsonne Edouard there as background. But they don't have anybody at right back except for El Ahmed that's going to slot in there, or Christopher Ayer. But how long is Christopher Ayer going to be at the club? He might be left by the end of this transfer market or the end of the next transfer market. So who's going to replace him? Who's going to replace Shane Duffy? Who's going to replace Christopher Jullien? There's about 4 to 5 key players. Odsonne Edouard's gone out the door this summer. 4 or 5 key stalwarts of the starting 11 side, and Celtic aren't being linked with anybody of any note, or anybody that we know of that has the development peak in him to reach the standards that Odsonne Edouard and Christopher Jullien and Christopher Ayer and Jeremy Frimpong reached. Same with Kieran Tierney when he came through the system. So that's my key issue. I said before I started this stream that I wouldn't actually go after Neil Lennon, because what's the point? It's over. It's done. He is really, at this stage, it's about when he goes as opposed to if he's going. He will be gone by the end of the season, if not before that. So I've done my stuff on Neil Lennon. I've talked about him enough. I've talked about the board enough. I just think now we're at a critical phase for Celtic as a club that we really need to start building for the future. And that is something that doesn't seem to be happening right now. It just seems to be we're preparing players to leave the club, but absolutely nobody is coming in to replace these players. And I think that's one of the key issues. What did you think of the game? Let me know in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I thought this would be a short video anyway, because I mean, it's Hamilton. You expect to win the game, and I mean, Celtic won the game. They played pretty well. I don't think it's a sign that Celtic are turning things around. I don't think it's a sign that Celtic are improving. I just think they were playing Hamilton, that were bottom of the table coming into this game. So, but funny enough, Celtic did have the same form as Hamilton, so it actually could have gone anyway. So listen, we'll take the positives with the positives. Celtic have finally won a game. First game in 5 games that Celtic have actually won a game. So we'll take that. I'm Endicall, has been calling it. Thanks for watching this stream. We'll chat to you later.